What to do about these celebrities weighing in on police shootings, buying that narrative that the police are out killing blacks just because they're black? These athletes rely on stats, data, logic, reasoning when it comes to their own profession, when it comes to analyzing their own game. For example, LeBron James, one of those who've been very vocal about this Black Lives Matter narration, this BS narration that the police are mowing down blacks just because they're blacks. Well, he did not win this league's most valuable player this year. He was not happy about that. At a press conference, he was asked about it. He was gracious to the winner, but logically, rationally, connecting the dots, using facts and using data, outlined why he thought he should win the award.
Good afternoon, Ernie Johnson inside Atlanta's Studio J as we interrupt scheduled programming on NBA TV for a very good reason. It's time to announce the Kia NBA Most Valuable Player for 2020. Ballots were cast by media members just before play was restarted in Orlando. And the three MVP finalists were Giannis Antetokounmpo, James Harden, and LeBron James. And now to make the announcement, the commissioner of the NBA, joining us from New York, Adam Silver. Adam, it's all yours.
Thanks, Ernie. It's my honor to announce the 2020 Kia Most Valuable Player is Giannis Antetokounmpo.
Pissed me off. That's my true answer. It pissed me off because out of 101 votes, I got 16 first place votes. That's what pissed me off more than anything. Not saying that the winner wasn't deserving of the MVP, but that pissed me off. And I finished second a lot in my career, either from a championship and now 4 times as an MVP.
Notice the reasoning, the application, the analysis.
I'm not going to sit up here and talk about what the criteria should be or what it is. It's changed over the years since I've gotten to the league. I know that. It's just changed. It's changed a lot. Sometimes it's, the best player on the best team. Sometimes it's the guy with the best season statistically. Sometimes it's changed over the course of my career. I mean, you don't know. You don't know, but
I'm not responsible for their unpredictability.
If you have a standard, he says, that standard should be consistent. Logic 101.
The voting scale is a little weird to me sometimes. I mean, if you take 2012, if you just stick with me here, 2012, 2013, I had a chance to be Defensive Player of the Year and also MVP in the same season. And that year, Marc Gasol was rewarded Defensive Player of the Year. But he made second team all defense. Okay, so that doesn't make sense. It's like being the MVP of the league, but you make second team all NBA. That's when I really started to look at things a little bit kind of like differently. I was like, how does that even make any sense? It's like being rookie of the year, but you make second team all rookie. And then I looked at the most improved this year, and rightfully so, Brandon Ingram was amazing. I thought he should have won it. But did you see the votes that Devontae Graham get? He averaged 4 points last year compared to 17 and a half. If that's not improving, what is? And it's a weird thing sometimes.
I prefer the concrete, the graspable, the provable.
Are you watching the game, or are you, he said, buying into a narrative, meaning some players have a good story, but that good story does not necessarily mean they're the best player. That means you're buying, LeBron James said, a narrative.
I don't know how much we are really watching the game of basketball, or are we just in the narration mode, the narrative.
That is the most illogical attitude.
Take another look at what LeBron James said about narrative. I don't know how much we are really watching the game of basketball, or are we just in the narration mode, the narrative, end of quote.
The world's foremost authority, Professor Irwin Corey.
Right.
Welcome. Well, I feel not only honored, but I feel the confrontation upon which we have set our sights can no longer endure at the propensity of a developing prognosis. Now you say, what? It doesn't matter that we... What was the question?
Talk about a bogus narrative. What about the bogus narrative that much of the sports world has embraced, has bought into, and that is that white cops are out there mowing down black people just because they're black? If anything, the studies show that the police are more hesitant, more reluctant to pull the trigger on a black suspect than on a white suspect. In fact, the #1 cause of preventable death for young white males is accidents, like car accidents or drowning accidents. The #1 cause of death, whether preventable or not, for young black men is homicide, almost always at the hands of another young black man. In fact, according to the Washington Post, for this year, as of June, there were 14 unarmed black men killed by the police, 25 unarmed whites killed by the police. It is rare for the police to kill anybody, let alone an unarmed suspect, let alone a white cop shooting a black unarmed suspect. In fact, of the 1,000 police killings last year, roughly less than 4% were white cops killing unarmed black men. And unarmed does not necessarily mean not dangerous. Michael Brown was unarmed, but his DNA was on the cop's gun, for crying out loud. And check out what the Washington Post said about a study done about police shootings in 2016. The conventional thinking about police shootings and some scientific research has been that black suspects are more likely to be shot than white suspects because of an implicit racial bias among police officers. But a new study has found exactly the opposite. Even with white officers who do have racial biases, officers are 3 times less likely to shoot unarmed black suspects than unarmed white suspects. Results come from a laboratory project at Washington State University in which actors in various scenarios approach and respond to officers on large, high-definition video screens in an attempt to recreate critical situations on the street. They've got real guns, modified to fire infrared beams. Scenarios can branch into conflict or cooperation. It's the 3rd time researchers have done this, and all 3 times they found that officers took significantly more time to fire their weapons if the suspect was black, according to their latest report, the Reverse Racism Effect. A 1978 report found that 60% of black suspects shot by the police carried handguns, compared with 35% of white suspects. In 2001, a statistical study showed that black people comprised 12% of the population, but committed 43% of the killings of officers. A 1977 analysis of major metro departments found officers fired more shots at white suspects than at black suspects, possibly because of public sentiment concerning treatment of blacks. In 2004, a researcher at the University of Missouri St. Louis interviewed more than 100 officers and found evidence of increased wariness about using deadly force against black suspects for fear of how it would be perceived and the associated consequences. One officer said, quote, "The press always plays up the racial angle on shootings around here, and that used to affect my thinking about things." The officer recounted a time where a black suspect was menacing others with a rifle, and the officer repeatedly warned the man to put down his gun or he would shoot the man in the back. "The whole time I was telling him I was going to shoot him, I was thinking, they'll crucify me on the news tomorrow if I shoot this black guy in the back," end of quote. Finally, when former AG Eric Holder and MSNBC host Al Sharpton were discussing the case, did Eric Holder issue the Rev a dare?
Reverend Al, can you spell hypocrisy?
If that's a challenge, I'm not sure Rev is up to it.
Tonight is the measure of whether the country begins in the state of Wisconsin a national drive to push back, or whether we have more to go to build a movement of resistance. But resist we must, and we will much about that be committed.
You know, sometimes it's the one-syllable words that give us the most trouble. I'm Larry Elder, and we've got a country to save. I'll see you next time.